Okay, in Module 4, we're going to be talking about the Cartesian coordinate system and also graphing lines and linear equations. So this is Module 4. And we're going to be talking about the rectangular coordinate system. Sometimes it's called the Cartesian coordinate system. And we're going to be graphing linear equations. In two variables now. Okay. So we're going to talk about first the the rectangular coordinate system. And it's basically made up of two number lines. Think of it as two number lines that intersect at a point that we're going to call the origin. Okay, so if I look at my graph paper here, I'm going to draw two number lines. Let's see if I can make it a little bit thicker. So I have one number line here, and that goes on forever. And I have another number line that goes in the vertical direction. Okay. Oops. There. Okay. So we have the horizontal number line is called the x-axis, and the vertical number line is called the y-axis. And the point right at the middle we call the origin. So if you think of the horizontal line as just a number line, we have 0 here in the middle. Right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Here we have -1, -2, -3, and so on. Right? And in the vertical direction, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, down -1, -2, -3, -4. So as you can see, we just have two number lines, one that goes horizontally and one that goes vertically. And the point in the middle is called the origin. And what we're doing is we're dividing basically a plane into 4 different quadrants. So if you notice, there's 4 sections to this grid now. So we're going to call this quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. We're just going counterclockwise. Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4. So some of you may remember having played a game called Battleship, right? You're always trying to figure out where your opponent's ship was, and you would basically give it a coordinate. Okay, so what we want to do here is we're going to be plotting points in the rectangular coordinate system. And so basically we need to give it two numbers. So our points are described as an ordered pair. as an ordered pair. And we use parentheses to denote it. Okay, so the first number is, we call it our x-coordinate. We also call it, could also be called the abscissa. You might hear that. And that tells us our horizontal position. The second number is our y-coordinate. And we call this our ordinate. And this tells us our vertical position. Okay, so let's try plotting a couple of points. Another grid. Let's try this. Pictures. Insert. Okay. So let's plot a couple points. We're going to be, let's say our example is to plot point A, which is 3, 4. Let's do B, which is -2, 2. C, which is 4, 0. D, which is 0, -5. E, let's do 5 halves, -1/2. And how about F is -3, -6. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw out our x-axis and our y-axis. And again now, each tick mark is going to represent 1 unit. Okay, so let's do this. Oops, it always disappears on me. Why does it do that? Okay, so let's plot point A. So remember, this is my x-axis, and this is my y-axis. So A is the point 3, 4. So this means I'm going to go 3 places. It's a positive 3, oops, on the x-axis, right? So remember, my first number is always my x, and my second number is always my y. So if I go over 3, I have 1, 2, 3 on my x, and from there I'm going to travel up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I go over to the right 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's my point A, which is 3, 4. Now if I look at point B, it says to go -2 on my x, right, and +2 on my y. So I'm going to go to the left 2, because to the left is negative, right, and then I'm going to go up 2 in the y direction. So there's my point B, which is -2, 2. My point C says I move 4 in my x direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I don't move anywhere in my y direction. So here I'm just on my x-axis. So that point is C, which is 0, 4. D says I don't move anywhere on my x-axis. My x is 0, but I move down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my point D, which is 0, -5. Right, so remember that the left is negative, right is positive, up is positive, down is negative. Okay, now we're not restricted just to integers either. We could use 5/2, the point 5/2, -1/2. So this could help if we rewrote 5/2 as a mixed number, right? That's the same as 2.5. So if that helps you a little bit, I could say that's the same as 2.5, -1/2. Right? So if I go over 2, and maybe halfway in between 2 and 3 is 2.5, and then I go down 1/2, there is my point. That looks like that should be E, which is 5/2, -1/2. And then the last one is -3, which means I move to the left on my x-axis 3, 1, 2, 3, and I move down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So right there is my point F, which is -3, -6. Okay, so it's important to remember that when you're plotting points, you always plot your x coordinate is always the first number that appears in that pair, and your y coordinate is always your second number.